Dritton. Thanks so much for joining me for an episode of the podcast.
It is good to be on.
Well, I'm going to start by asking you the question that I ask everyone. How do we know each other?
Well, we first met and we were both working at our former organisation, PwC, and one of our mutual very good friends, Ben Lannon, and with much anticipation, I think we finally met on his strong suggestion. And that's how we met, and I think we've been close ever since.
Yes. So I remember that we had, I think, originally met kind of as we're just talking now, which is over conference bridge lines. We had been on a couple of calls together. We had exchanged many emails because at the time you were based in Brisbane and serving quite a few clients in the energy space. And being in Houston, that was where the majority of my client base was. So that was what originally had me working with Ben and your team. And then I think we finally got to meet in person in Shanghai.
Yeah, I anticipated this question and I was racking my brain to work out when was the first time we met in person. And it was either the Brisbane office or Shanghai, but I think it was Shanghai because you were in Brisbane and I remember vividly missing you just because I was in Sydney. And so I think as a consequence, the first time we met was in Shanghai at a conference.
I remember being in Brisbane and having missed you because I sat at your desk.
Yeah, I think I got a note. I think you left a note for me. Yeah.
I did. I left you a note. So, I mean, for a while, people could have asked, are they the same person? They never appear together. But yes, we finally got a chance to meet in Shanghai, and it's been so fun to get to watch your evolution, both as a person, as a professional, because it's been over 10 years now. And so I've gotten to see you, obviously progress in your career through the firm and then to go to industry and then strike out on your own. And I've also had the wonderful opportunity of watching you become a husband and now a father. And just to see how you have grown and evolved on so many different levels and become just this really amazing version of yourself. It's actually been kind of a privilege. So I'm excited to find out about what you are most excited about right now in life.
Well, that was very, very kind. I'm partially welling up and partially blushing, so I'm glad the camera is off, to be honest. Very kind words. And the same for yourself, Liz. We've both been on a journey and we've had each other to lean on during that time, so I'm really grateful for that in our friendship. Yeah, so lots happened in 10 years. I was thinking about this. My dad finished high school, so he's no tertiary education, but one of the wisest people I know. And he talking about God once said, I don't believe in an afterlife. And I said, why, Dad? And he's not usually this eloquent. He goes, because karma's here to deal with people in the real life. And thinking about my 10-year journey and the journey of the last 10 years and, the evolution you described. And I now have like a 4-year-old version of myself that is female, my little beautiful eldest daughter, Layla. And karma really is a bitch. She's the most amazing, amazing human, but she's as emotional as her father. And I'm now having to cope with that. And I was exchanging texts with a mate who's had his second child just last week. And he texted to me, there are times when I just want to go see my mum and give her a cuddle after experiencing my own child. I feel the same every day.
Well, and my daughters talk about your girls. That I have to say, talk about moments that kind of make you well up and catch your breath. We had a chance to visit because you and your family have recently made a short-term relocation to the UK. And my family happened to be in London as you all were arriving for your next few year stay. And so miraculously, we had a chance to get both sets of our girls together. Over 2 days, it worked out. With enough ice cream and playgrounds, miracles can happen, and my girls are so taken with Layla and with Sophia, but they just are they're marvelous. You've got wonderful daughters, and you are so right. The universe has an incredible sense of humor because Layla is independent and she is opinionated and she is strong physically and mentally, and she's going to give you a run for your money, but she's so full of life. She is just
Wow.
so full of energy, enthusiasm, joy, wonder, and stubbornness. So yeah, chip off the old block.
Yeah, yeah, it was a beautiful weekend. Yeah, as my wife says, she'll be all right in the world. We've just got to survive raising her. Her best friend's coming over from Oz to Spain actually in 2 weeks' time from childcare. And I said, oh, should we go visit Ellie? And she's like, yeah, yeah, let's do that. And I've been trying to use it as a bit of a carrot to try and get her behavior back into line. She's been a bit out of whack. And I said this morning, I said, Layla, I said, look, if you keep this behavior up, we just can't go and see Ellie in Spain, and you would break her heart. Like, you would break her heart, sweetheart. Why would you do that? And she goes, Dada, it wouldn't be me breaking her heart. It would be you, because it would be your decision for us not to go. She's
Oh my gosh, you are in so much trouble.
she's not even 4 yet. I told Skull that, yeah, this morning. She just smiled and she says she's going to be fine in the world. But yeah, it's healthy. I think that it's a really, like, I look at myself, and I've had people in my career say, Dritton, it's okay to be a salmon, but you don't have to always be going against the stream. Sometimes it's okay to just go with it. And I remember that. I remember that bit of advice probably about 10 years ago from a partner at PwC. And I think there's a lot of truth in that advice, but I also think that it pays to question the status quo. So it's just this balancing act, and, like, I don't know what the ideal middle ground is for that balancing act, but, like, I encourage her to question things, but there are times when you're like, this is just it. We just need to run with it. And so it's tricky. It's tricky. It's a fine line.
How has becoming a father, I don't want to say changed you, because the thing about becoming a parent, at least for me, is that there wasn't one big change. There were a million little changes. I'm curious what you have learned about yourself as you have gone down this fatherhood journey.
Children are a reflection of their parents, right? Is my working hypothesis. And, but there are certain behaviors in that are just absolutely amazing and inspiring. And then there are other behaviors that are like, well, look, that's going to cause you grief in life. And so you try and nip it in the bud. And I find that in order to influence those behaviors for the better, you often find that you have to suppress those same behaviors in yourself. So a long way of saying that they can only be what they see. And so I find the most rewarding but challenging bit of parenting is actually reflecting on your own behavior, emotions, and trying to be the best example for them. So it sort of really, really forced me. And it's a continual, journey of looking at the mirror and going, like, what can I be doing better? What don't I like about myself? And sometimes you don't realize you had those behaviors until you see it play back at you and your younger self, maybe your daughter, your children. And so it's been interesting to, I guess, understand myself through my children, and then at the same time try and better them by bettering myself.
I look at my own girls, and each of them has elements of my personality and elements of their dad's personality. And at the same time, they are uniquely themselves.
Mm.
But as you say, it's a balancing act, and it's a challenging spot to navigate, especially as my girls now are at a point where they are becoming young adults and learning to express who they are independent from who their parents are.
That all resonates. They say of the time they spend with you, 90% of that will occur, I think, before the age of 17 or 18. And those 17, 18 years will fly. I'm really mindful of that as well. Which probably answers your original question, which is sort of what's my motivation and driver. And I think it's them. I had my midlife crisis early, and I think I used to look at life quite a binary proposition, and everything was sort of largely black or white. And I viewed them as I viewed things in really long term time horizons, be it jobs, be it children. What I've come to realize, I think, at least for myself, is that life's a series of trade-offs, and what you're willing to trade at a given point in your life, however years that might be, every 5 years or whatever that period might be, changes. So, nothing's really fixed for such a long period of time, and those trade-offs will just vary. And so for me, right at this time, like, time with my children is just not negotiable. And that's really what I think motivates me and drives me at the moment, because I've just seen so many people do it in a way that's really not aligned with the way I would do it. And I can see that they've got relationships with their children in later years that they wish would look a little bit different. And I think if they had their time again, they would have done time with their children differently. And so, like, I look at that as, in sadness for them, but inspiration for me to sort of do it right the first time, or do it as best I can the first time.
So I definitely think of you as someone who is precocious and sort of perennially ahead of the curve. What brought on an early midlife crisis?
I just had a series of, in hindsight, fortunate, but at the time, unfortunate events, be it promotions I'd missed out on, or job opportunities that I'd been looked over. I think that was the first sort of straw. Like, a lot of those instances were influenced by the way I was engaging with others in organizations. And so I sort of looked at myself in the mirror. I had a couple, to put it bluntly, like, toxic workplaces. And so looked in the mirror a bit and went, well, what's going on? Is it me? Is it them? Is it both of us? And then third straw was COVID then. COVID then struck. And so we all had a fair bit of extra time on our hands. And so I took it as an opportunity to hit the books and studied psychology, studied, evolution, studied just the human behavior really. And it really forced me to, in a positive way, sort of look at the world a little bit differently than I think the way I'd viewed it up until that point. I think I was hyper rational up to that point. And, well, big realization, right? Like, the world's not quite as rational as I saw it. It's far more emotive, and I think that just caused me to, or triggered me to look at the world through a different lens.
What have you been reading, watching, listening to lately that continues to shape your thinking around your own personal growth and development, and then maybe even as a parent in what you're passing on to your girls?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've probably backed off a bit of late, to be honest. But like, my favorites are, like, *Sapiens* by Yuval Harari. Just really was the first, I think, bit of literature that shifted my perspective. And then the next, I think, the other book that just completely moved me was Jonathan Haidt's book, Why Good People Are Divided by Religion and Politics. That's sort of the second part of the header, The Righteous Mind. That was mine. That was, like, mind-boggling for me, like, in a really, really positive way. And then I guess as I had children, so that they probably the two books that really turned my worldview upside down, and probably took me from a really largely black or white perspective to realizing that the world's just really a series of shades of grey. A lot of Pinkman's stuff on sort of human behavior and sales was really fascinating as well. And then as I had children, like, just a series of books on child brain development. So the whole brain child is something that I think every single parent should read. You know, the left brain, the right brain, and how to basically nurture your child so that when they're left side dominant, you know, to pull them back to the middle and use the other side and vice versa. So I think that there are some books that have probably influenced my thinking. Of late, I've probably turned more to fiction than I have. I read so much fiction as a kid. Like my librarian in grade 3 called my mother in and said, "Did I just make sure that this kid's reading these books? They're for grade 7 children." And they were all just these science type fiction, and I loved it. And you couldn't take a book out of my hand as a child. I remember being in like Target and just mum shopping, and I'd be sitting there on the floor reading this book. And then I went away from fiction for a long time, and my wife has sort of kindly reminded me that it might be healthy for my mental state to turn back to fiction just to lighten the load a little bit. So I started Harry Potter in the last couple of weeks. I've been a long time Harry Potter cynic, but I thought, why not? So, but I think, to come back to your comments, I think on just the growth and evolution, I think, yeah, having children really just, I think, forced me to, now that a lot of those things don't come naturally to me. So like, I don't think that natural empathy, my psychotherapist describes me as being circumstantially autistic. So there are moments where I just miss the point. I mean, other moments where I'm right, you know, my empathy is like sky high. So it's just odd. I think just because I see the world a little bit differently to others, I struggle at times to see their perspective. So that's something that I have to work really hard on. Like there are certain instances where it's just so obvious to me. Like I can easily put myself in the shoes of the other person, particularly in a professional setting. Like, you know, it just comes so naturally. Then there are other instances in social environments where I think I miss the point at times. It's just overexcitement I'm very passionate, and I've just come to realize that like not everyone's as passionate about certain things as I am, which is okay. And then on the gratitude piece, again, that's something I have to work really hard on. I've actually got a really strong inner critic. Like it's unhealthy. And so my wife has to snap me out of that every now and then. It's fascinating because it's a behavior or a trait that like I'm harder on myself than I am on anyone else. And I can be quite hard on others, but it sort of forces me to constantly improve. It's very rare that I sit down and go, "Oh, geez, that went really well." Well, the first thing I'll do, even after winning a project, is like, what went well? What did not go well there? What do I need to do better next time? And I'm constantly trying to improve, and I'm really, really hard on myself. But I think that critical approach, it results in continual improvement. It's just a bit unhealthy at the moment, and something that I have to temper.
You've mentioned Skyle a few times, and shout out to my favorite member of the household.
After Poppy, the dog?
Neck and neck, really. I mean, they're both awesome. They're both awesome. And one of the things that is just really remarkable to me is what a great pair you make, because she is also incredibly accomplished and driven. And I mean, she's a surgeon. So she's also someone who has relentlessly pursued her professional goals and life. And now you are raising children, and you have also relocated largely to make her next career move possible. And I'm curious how you are entering kind of this time of ebb and flow between your professional pursuits, supporting hers, and then also caring for your family. What's that like right now?
So she'll be doing her surgical fellowship in London. So she's a general surgeon. She's an amazing human. She's my better half, and she's He grounds me and had been working on me for 20 years to make me a better version of myself. I was quite a fiery cat when we first met. To be honest, I say to her all the time, I don't know why you stayed with me. Like, I don't think I would have stayed with my 19-year-old self for more than a year. So she's an amazing, amazing person. She really is. Yeah, everything's a juggle and a balancing act. So like I had to make some decisions around the business. So it presents a great opportunity for me as well to try and launch a business over here. But I think above everything, we're both viewing this as just a bit of a quote unquote gap year to see the world, to see to live in a country that's not our own and to raise our children and give them exposure to things that they wouldn't get at home. So I think travel is the ultimate educator. And so that's our overarching priority. And we both came over here with that objective in mind, which is, it's life first. It's our children first. It's life first. And then second to that, we both have to find a way to make our respective jobs work. She's actually been quite fortunate. Her hours are quite good over here and she's getting some amazing training, but it's a juggle. So like I pick up the girls every single day from childcare. That's what I'll be doing as soon as we hang up to make sure they're still getting, us every single day. And we just balance it and make it work like everyone else. I'm not sure we do anything special other than prioritize them. And I think we're both conscious that it ebbs and flows and there are times where, we'd like to be spending more time with the children than we are, but we try in the micro moments to make up for that by just being as present as possible.
There's something about you that has always felt to me deeply rooted in family. And I'm curious where that originates from and how has your definition and understanding of family maybe changed or evolved since getting married and having children of your own?
It's a really deep question. And this was probably one of the awakenings I had reading Jonathan Haidt's book, A Righteous Mind, right? Is you've got these individualistic Western cultures and you've got these more communal cultures from, say, Europe and the East. And I was raised very much like my parents are from Yugoslavia. So I was raised in Australia, born in Australia, raised in Australia, but, grew up around very communal values. And it wasn't until I sort of read that book that I realized that obvious fact that I was, in hindsight, that obvious fact that I was, my lifestyle was very family centric and communal, but the professional and social environment I was in was far more individualistic. And that was one of the big sort of struggles, to be honest, I had, which that book helped me unlock and understand a little bit. But I digress. I bring it back to the question. I think, well, one, being raised in that culture in our household was really, really important. Like our parents instilled those values into us. And so you'll see them in my brother and my sister as well. It's how we were raised. I used to travel back to Europe quite frequently from quite a young age. And so I was around that kind of culture where family was everything. It's probably the first point. And I'd say, the second point, which is a fair bit deeper, which is the why, that my dad was practically like an orphan child. Like his mother died from TB when he was 2 years old, and then his father left him to be raised by his grandparents. And so he didn't have really an immediate family. And that's the chip that he carries on his shoulder. And he, I think, overcorrected for that in raising us. And I've got a great appreciation and respect for what he did, which is worthy of a podcast, if not a book in its own right. And so I think as a testament to what he created for us, it's really important for me to create that for our own children as well.
I wonder now for you, as you have become an entrepreneur and are working in a space where you are less surrounded by people than you've ever been in your career before. How are you creating community? And that's an extension of family. How are you creating a community that you're proud of, that you want to be part of as you are now a business owner?
It's actually, so context, which you'd be familiar with, but maybe those listening might not be, like, you know, the business I've built has is a services business, and the people are located all over the world. The business is 5 years old. I only recently brought on a partner, which is the first person that's based in Australia. Otherwise, the team are based all over the world. They're in New Zealand, they're in the US, they're in the UAE, they're in Italy, they're all over. And therefore, like, that physical proximity isn't there. So I think it's difficult to create community in the way that a conventional business might, where you're all located in one place geographically. But, like, as I reflect on the question, what all these people are is they're all completely aligned from a values perspective as to what is important to them. And I think that's what binds us. We're all extreme family people, almost all of us. And, we are all on this mission to work to live and not live to work. And so that guides everything we do. And I think that's, I've been in organizations where it was everybody, lived to work and struggled to prioritize anything outside of that. And that was really hard for me, really, really hard. And then I've been at the other end of the extreme in organizations where, there wasn't really much of a high performance culture in the way you would see in a, say, professional services. And so I think I've tried to create something in the middle, which is when we work, and we work at pace, and we're curious, and we're extremely efficient. But, like, if no job is ever more important than family. And so Ruth in New Zealand, for example, she's got 2 teenage children, and, like, she basically is off every school holidays, and she'll work around that. She'll prioritize her children and might do an hour here or there. Something's really, really important. But our general rule is that, like, the kids come first, and we just tag team and help each other out. And just having that one, I think, uniting goal to prioritize our families has brought us all just naturally close together. So we don't do traditional bonding exercises and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't exist, but we're all fundamentally aligned on what we're doing and why, and the rest just comes naturally. And that's what became apparent to me after a few years, is that, people talk about culture and what have you, and they're all extremely, extremely important things. But I think if you build a team that is fundamentally aligned from a values perspective, like, culture flows from it, is probably my conclusion. And that's definitely true for us.
And it's interesting to me to see the parallels between family and how you approach your family and being present for your family, and how family weaves itself into the core of what is your business. And your business is people, and it's caring for people. Because one of the lessons I absolutely learned at the firm, and it was very succinctly, somebody else we mutually know, Helen, made it very succinct for me when she said, your first job is to take care of your people, because your people take care of your clients. So take care of your people first, and the rest will take care of itself. You've also played a lot of team sports, and I wonder how you seen your participation in athletics and team sports influencing who you are now, both in terms of how you are with your family and then also how you are as a professional leader.
Yeah, no, interesting question. I I think team sport should be compulsory for all children. Like if it was up to me, it would be compulsory in the curriculum. And I get that a lot of children aren't, they might be more culturally minded than they are, say, sporting or athletically minded, and that's completely fine. But being part of a team, I think, is one of life's greatest lessons. Like you learn to lose, you learn to win, you hurt together, you laugh together. Like it really has shaped how I think approach things. Like I played soccer, football, and it was at quite decent levels where sort of high performance culture was expected. It is interesting because I was playing like senior men's football from quite a young age. Like I was and I was 17 when I played, men's football for the first time, and it toughens you pretty quickly. And so like it personally for me gave me pretty thick skin, I think, from a taking feedback perspective. And maybe I struggle at times when other people can't take feedback in a similar way. But I think it was my sporting background which sort of just made that expected for me, at least. So that's one way. I think like with a team, it doesn't matter how good you are individually. Like I've been in teams where we had 11 superstars and didn't perform, and I've been in teams where we didn't have 11 of the best players in the league, but we won leagues. And I think that was a really big learning for me, is that, again, it's obvious, but there's no I in team, as they say, and you really do have to work together. But I think losing is one of the biggest learnings for me. Like as an entrepreneur, you have to be, and a founder, you have to be who's responsible for both the technical delivery and also the sales. You have to get really comfortable with hearing no and being rejected and losing. What might on the face of it appear like losing. And I think through team sport, doesn't matter how good you are going to lose, and that's going to hurt. But it hardens you, and what it does is it forces you to work out, well, what can you improve so you don't experience that loss again? And that really resonates to me. I go, it sounds corny, but that's really true for me. And with my daughter, like my dad had he's still around, but as a child, there were a handful of sort of sayings or rules that we had in our household. And I'm trying to do the same with my daughter, instill some principles. And the one that would be top of the list is when things don't go well, I say mistakes are okay, sweetheart, as long as, and she finishes the sentence, as long as we learn from them. And so I think that's what one of the main things team sports teaches you is loss, and how to learn from that, how to recover from that. Because it's very hard founding a business. It's very easy for people to walk into a business once it's up and running, but I've just got so much respect for founders. There are some really rough and dark times in the first few years, and if you can't cope with those, then you've got no chance of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. But they are so important to experience those lows, because it just makes the highs even higher, and you have a real appreciation for them. That was a really long answer to your question. I sort of covered a lot of territory and digressed a bit, but that's my take on sport and professional crossover.
So I'm curious, right now, who do you most want to be talking to, and who do you want to be seeking you out?
Who do I want to be talking to? So first and foremost, my children and my family and dad. So any chance to call back home, I call back home. So that's always number one. And then, in a professional setting, there are obviously I've just landed in London and I'm trying to expand my business here. So speaking to buyers of what I have to offer are my priority right at this moment from a professional perspective. And also landing in a new city, just finding my new tribe as well. is probably really important to me. Coming back to that, I prioritize that, my personal relationships, because I think they're really important for mental health. So I'm trying to find my tribe here as well. So that's important to me right now. So no one person, but I source that family, potential clients, and my tribe. And so I think they're the people that I'm seeking out at this point of my life.
Dritton, thank you so much for coming along for this conversation with me and yeah, for being my friend of 10 plus years. I am excited to continue to watch our girls grow up, and I'm hopeful that maybe there's a connection for the next generation.
Likewise, Liz. Thanks for reaching out. I hope your listeners find this interesting, and they're always welcome to reach out to me if they want to know more.
Awesome. Thanks. I'll let you go get your girls now.
Thanks, Liz.